The difference between making money and losing money on Meteora DLMMs all starts with your token selection. And that's why it's amazing at MetDABI that Meteora announced their own in-platform token filter system with over 17 filters which you can sort by. So within a few clicks, you can filter out the majority of these unsafe pools. But the thing is, knowing how to combine these filters for different strategies is just as important as knowing they exist. So today I'm going to walk through every single one of these filters and show you a few strategies that you can implement right now for different DLMM goals. So whether you have 2 Solana or you're working with 100 Solana, there's a strategy for you using these new filters. So for anyone that's new, Meteora is a liquidity providing platform on Solana where you provide tokens and you earn fees from the traders. You're kind of acting like you're in a casino and taking a cut of every trade that happens. But obviously, with the amount of tokens we have on Solana, the problem is there can be hundreds and hundreds of tokens, and each of these tokens can have a bunch of pools, and it's very overwhelming. And that's why it's amazing that Meteora brought all of this technology and managed to build their own in-platform filtering system, which takes out a lot of these rugs even off the bat. And right now, if we head over to the filters tab, we have over 17 of them. I think there might even be, I don't know, over 20 if you count each one individually. And we can have a ton of customization with these. So heading over to filters, first of all, we have this verified. And if I was to tick this, I believe the amount of tokens would completely disappear. There is not a lot which meet this criteria, and that's why it is off by default. But we do have this JupShield safeguard, and that is on by default. And what this does is filters out a lot of probably, known rugs, stuff that has suspicious devs, or is kind of more of a known scam. This automatically removes them. But if we do untick that, we will see most likely see the number increase, but there is a lot more risk of this, and this is just to safeguard a lot of newer users as well. And next up, very related to this, we have the Jupiter organic score, and we do see a lot of new tokens launch with that 0 organic score. We'll have to see if the list updates, but they have it by default. Meteora have it on that 20 value, and this just filters out stuff that's still very ruggy, where the ownership is extremely high, or it's just looking clearly wash traded, as generally you don't want to be DLMMing these. But if you have a particular strategy, you might want to turn these off as well. I guess you don't really want to play with the max either, but you could even up this value if you wanted. So next up, we have this new listings, no high supply concentration and no single high ownership. And again, we don't have any hard numbers for these, but by default, the no high single ownership is ticked. So one person could dump on our head, but they could, still could be some bundling. That's why you use all of these in combination. But with these kind of defaults, you are pretty safe with, if we look through these right now, a lot of these tokens are quite old tokens. There's a few new ones, but they're kind of distributed. They've been out for a day. You shouldn't have an immediate rug. And then lower down, it's a lot more token specific metrics such as market cap to 150,000 minimum. Obviously, all these can be changed, and a maximum can come in very handy, and we will use that later. Holders 100, I guess that's pretty low for the kind of tokens we're seeing. You'd probably expect that number to be a bit higher for kind of tokens with this market cap and the ones we see here. But then you might want to untick DAM if that's something you're not interested in. And you've got the minimum volume, pool age. All of these are very, very useful. Active TVL, base fee, TVL, the amount of fees. But it is also important not to be overwhelmed with them all, and the fees to active TVL. So obviously this changes as people remove liquidity, so it can inflate some of the values. And then a bit lower down, there is a few more options related to the DAM v2. So now I've gone over the basics. I'll just add a caveat that obviously everything is token dependent as well. You're not just going off the kind of filters. Very often you're probably going to want to look at the chart as well, which you can obviously do by clicking them on the Meteora. There is a lot of other metrics and stuff to keep in consideration. But going into the first strategy, we're going to go over who someone you might know who is pretty well known for a strategy, and that is the Evil Panda or Tendorian. So on the filters, there's a few he uses, and I know he probably doesn't use this filter particularly. He uses Dex Screener and other platforms, but there is a few key metrics he mentioned. So first of all, that 20 Jupiter organic score, and we don't want any single high ownership. Next, we want that minimum market cap of 250,000, and this is what he says himself. We want that token age minimum of 3 hours. Holders, I don't believe he specifies, but we're obviously looking at DLMM. The volume, we've got that default minimum on, but the maximum volume we have is 1 million. And we want the minimum fees the pool has generated to be 4,000. And I have changed it that 24-hour, as if you set it lower, you won't have any results showing here, unless there was a lot of volume. And of course, he has a lot of other criteria which he goes by as well. But what we're trying to target is healthy-ish new meme coins, which look like they won't rug, but we can also get some fees from, and we're hoping for that kind of dip and that little bounce in which we can exit. He does have a few other criteria, which I will quickly touch on. But when he loads chart, he has a certain time frame, and what he goes off is the token has to have just hit an all-time high is one of them. It has to have broken that green super trend line. And we also want that RSI set to 2 and that MACD active on the chart. And then he chooses to exit. We're not going to really covering that, but when a few other indicators hit as well, where the RSI 2 hits the top, the MACD flips green. And that's just a super simple way you can do this. So with these filters, we can see HTTPS 6.7, a few of the same pools, and this is where it is currently a bit hard to use the filters. But if we have someone like Yuns, who you also might have seen on Twitter, he also had a very successful strategy where he had a few filters which he used. If I go over to the filters, as you can see, I've cleared absolutely all of them now. All I have is that high base fee, which is something he specifies about. So we might be able to put, I believe that's the minimum base fee. And we can have that minimum TVL, which is something he mentions as well. And there's a bit of variance, but if we only want to go off new tokens, I'm going to put the max token age at 12 hours right here. You can see we only have one position appear, and I did remove that JupShield as well. And another thing he mentioned is waiting for that initial volume spike. But, with the current token list, we're not quite seeing that. So you'd probably want to analyze this token, decide if the chart looks like something decent worth going into. I don't think it does. So we're going to leave that for now. So that's just potentially 2 ways you can use it. But, as I said, there is some kind of algorithm. Busy did put out this good post, and I think it's worth drawing attention to, where, he says, not quite sure what algo you're using, but he did find some good pools from the system. It did leave out some pools, but from his testing with 10 Solana, just entering some of the new tokens on there. And because of this pre-filtering, he was able to make the profit. But obviously, you need your own judgment. But looking at this, you could have said HTTPS, as he said, Frog, and a few others.